Hi everyone. So for today's class, part of it, you're going to be listening to this recording. I'm going to go over the directions and the expectations. And while you're going through this lecture, you're going to be answering some questions, but you're also going to be taking notes. So at any point that you think you need to pause and kind of collect your thoughts and write some notes down, please do that because you're going to be submitting those to me. So last class, we worked on a parlay discussion and we were addressing these three focal questions. How do people organize themselves? What do all cultures have in common? And how can a society be organized and successful? After looking at the parlay discussions, these were some of the takeaways. If you notice, we have cultures, people, jobs, similarities, government, language, and religion. So we're going to think about those. So like I said, you're going to be taking notes on this slideshow. I have posted a notes document under assignments, and you're just going to be taking bullet points. Do not copy the slideshow word for word. It's something that we're going to be working on this year. Try to put it into your own words or just condense it. So when I talked about the word primes, it's really an acronym that stands for different things for our history class. The P for prime stands for political. This is relating to any political system of a civilization, and it's essentially describing how it's governed itself. So maybe it's a democracy, maybe it's a dictatorship or a monarchy. And we're going to get into that. The R stands for religion. So just like we had talked about in our discussion, many people brought up that people come together due to religious practices or a certain belief. So we're going to think about the role of religion within a society. The I stands for innovation, meaning what type of invention or technology did the civilization improve upon or invent themselves? So if you think about today's society, if we discuss about new inventions or maybe like technology that has helped us, thinking about a computer or an iPhone, but we're going to be thinking about innovation. The M for prime stands for military, and it's essentially how that society deploys or uses a military. What source of protection do they have in place? The E stands for an economic system. So much as we talked about in our discussion, it doesn't necessarily just mean cash, but it could mean what is being used as a system of trade. We think about what kind of resources are available, maybe gold, maybe it is some sort of currency or silver, but economics and how that fuels the civilization. And finally, the S for primes is the social characteristics that influence the way of life in civilization. So maybe there is a certain hierarchy that is supposed to be followed, or maybe there are certain traditions that individuals take part in. So again, those are what the primes stand for, and we're going to be relating back to that throughout our course of world history. So now we're moving into the introduction of feudalism. So we need to sort of backtrack a little bit and place this in the context of history. So you've previously learned about the Roman Empire, and if you look on this map, we can see how the Roman Empire had expanded all the way to what is currently Western Europe. And so by 500 AD, the Roman Empire had collapsed. And if we look at this map, we can notice that there are different kingdoms. So if we look at the green, we see barbarian kingdoms. In the yellow, we see the Byzantine. And we're really looking at all of these different interactions, these migrations and invasions of different groups. So we see the Slavs, the Franks, the Visigoths, and the Avars. And we're seeing how these groups of people are spread out and they don't have a localized leader. So we see the rise in feudalism after the fall of the Roman Empire. And we need to know that there was no strong central government. So again, if we go back to this slide, we'll notice that there are those different kingdoms and different groups of people. So there was constantly a series of invasions. Cities were being plunged. There was no standing army or police. So feudalism provided a structure to society and offered these mass protections. Again, this map just focuses on the year 700 to 1000 AD, and we can see where all of these different invasions are. If we look at where the Vikings are, we can see that they started maybe over in Eastern Europe by Russia in what is currently the Volga River, and all the way to Ireland and down the coast to England, France, and they looped around Spain and reached Italy. So we can see how without having a centralized government or a standing army, these groups of individuals were really susceptible to invasions. And so the origins of feudalism started in about 600 AD. And this is when these powerful Frankish chiefs, who were French, had owned large amounts of land. And without money, only land could be offered for compensation. So these Franks would give land to important people, and the exchange was for an oath of loyalty. And so the feudal system became very formalized, and developed a strict social hierarchy. So maybe you have somebody who was a king in what would be modern day France, and maybe he owned territory in Germany. But since the king had no way to oversee what was going on in his territory in Germany, he would then give his land to somebody that he trusted. And again, the land would be a symbol of loyalty. And so, one of the most powerful Franks of this time, who really unified most of Europe, was this man named Charlemagne. Charlemagne was the king of the Franks, and his empire expanded from France, Germany, and Italy. He focused on education. He was a devout Christian, so he eventually protected the Pope, and the Pope had crowned him emperor. So Charlemagne had really unified all of these broken kingdoms and groups of individuals, and he converted them to Christianity, and he centralized and unified Europe. And then after his death, his three sons fought for his crown. And in this map, we can see where um, the Frankish Empire was before Charlemagne in the purple. So it would be in what is modern day France. And then in that yellow sort of territory, we see how he expanded into Italy. And then those divisions, those red lines represent where his territory was broken up after he passed away. So today for our homework, you're going to be, after you're done listening to this lecture, you're going to then read about Charlemagne and whether he should be remembered as a hero or as a villain.